I'm head of press and culture at the Danish Embassy and artistic director of this space. And together with Rebecca Graversen, my dear colleague, we are just very pleased to welcome our guest today, our special guest, Olivia Rode Hvass, who is a Danish artist and who's been participating in this exhibition with this wonderful piece, this Gobelin. Very French piece, you might say, with lots of references to art history and to handicraft and many, many other things that you will be speaking about very soon, together with Andreanne Beguin, who is the curator of this exhibition. We are very pleased to have a French curator working with Danish artists and other international artists. And we also feel very, very privileged that we are able to have this conversation today. Just to say a few words on Gobelin here in Paris, because as we all know, it's a historic thing to do Gobelin in Paris. And right now, the Danish foundation, the new Carlsberg Foundation, is having a commission made by 4 Danish contemporary artists at Les Gobelins, and they will be shown very soon in June of this year publicly in Paris. So you can look forward to that, and I think that this is the very, very fine way of speaking about Gobelin here in Paris and also putting a mindset on what that is all about. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Rebecca, for being our local curator. Thank you, Andreanne, for being our general curator, and thank you, Olivia, for being with us today, and welcome. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for being here today. I'm very pleased to have this talk with you, Olivia. And thank you also the Bicolor team for all the organization. Before introducing Olivia, I will give some context about the show and explain in few words what have been my curatorial line. So the show is called The Future of the Past, because I wanted to stay in this trans-historical perspective and a mix between tradition and modernity. And I was inspired by a Spanish researcher who conceptualized this idea of a mix between pop culture and popular culture, and he called it after pop. And he argues that we are in the 3rd generation of representation and consumption in which popular culture is totally mixed with pop culture. And all of the artwork of the show have this in-betweenness, so in between tradition and modernity. And just before introducing Olivia, I want to mention one piece of the show, which is the castle over here. It's an artwork made by Kåre Frank, a Danish artist, and I think it's very visible that how tradition and modernity mixed, because he used a very traditional architecture of a castle that have become the logo of Disney. So it's something that we see in popular culture, but also in pop culture, and he transforms it, he renews it with modern materials, so iPhone, which also say about the waste of our modernity. So now, Olivia, thank you for being here. You graduated in 2021 from Jutland Art Academy. You're based in Copenhagen, but you grew up in the north of Denmark, and it's a landscape that shaped your imagination.
Yes.
And we can speak about that later. And I invited you to present this beautiful artwork, which is just behind us, and it's part of a wider series It's a series of tapestry inspired by medieval tapestry, the Hunt of the Unicorn. And my first question is, why did you choose these references to medieval tapestry?
Yes, hello. I would like to show, I made this PowerPoint also to see some of the reference works, which are these Gobelin series from the Middle Ages, medieval times. And it shows this hunt of the unicorn, where these hunters, noble hunters, are trying to capture the exotic and like rare animal, the unicorn, and magic animal also. And it's like about how they capture it in the end. So it's like celebrating the possession or like the capture of the rare exotic animal. And here you see how they kill it with like a spear in the stomach. So I thought, because I've been working a bit with tapestry and textiles before, that I wanted to look into like the cultural heritage or upbringing that we get through art history and also through mythology and fairy tales told through time. And I thought this was like a very iconic tapestry series that has some messages that really has shaped the world we live in today. So I wanted to, because I think it has like like messages that link to colonialism, like possessing exotic lands, for example, and also to like just possessing things in general, like climate has been very much affected by this, and just like looking into with a critical eye, like who is the hero of the story, and maybe who should have been, or what could it feel if it was someone else. And then I made my own version, which also shows the hunt. Sorry, I don't know why it's doing this. Maybe okay. Here you can see the hunt, I guess, where it's like a scarecrow shooting the horse. So it's like capturing the exotic animal, and then here you see. I don't. Maybe are you better at it? And the next one. No, it is a bit difficult. This one? No. I don't know if it works. Back. One back. One more. But it's also okay. It's this one, and it's like very. This image is the one that is mostly linked to the original series, where there's also a unicorn in a cage, and it's crying because it's not very funny to be captured, and and it's feeling sad, and it's like very the world around it is also sad, with like sad faces and stuff. And then in the next, yes, this one, it's then breaking free, so it's breaking the chains. And then in the last one, I can also try. Okay, back. It is the same one, but it's running free in a field. So it's like trying to give a new main character, but also give a new ending to the story. Yeah.
Yeah. So you rewrote the story toward the liberation and the freedom of the unicorn, but you also changed the aesthetic because you choose to give to the unicorn a very contemporary figures which you were inspired by My Little Pony, which is a game of the 90s, a plastic game from the 90s. And so why did you choose My Little Pony?
I think I feel like it relates very much to my own upbringing, and it relates very much to teenage girls. And I thought that it was, or like pre-teen, but I thought it was nice to use a very often a person that is not taken very seriously, the teenage girl, and making this kind of aesthetic and this very girly, bit childish character, the main character. And also I thought there was like a nice link between the ancient or like the iconic cultural heritage we have is usually cartoons, like in churches. The way we told important stories was through cartoons, I guess, or like telling it without words but with images. And also in Gobeling, it's usually a way of showing important stories. Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to also link it a bit to like cartoons today, or like the visual language of cartoons today, which are very often more directed for children. So I thought there was also something interesting in mixing this like very highly appreciated art form, which is like a Gobelin, and then mixing it with like childish universe somehow. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're crossing an old myth and a plastic toy, and you also renew the technique. When I was doing some tour of the exhibition, people were very curious about how it was produced and made, and especially how much time did it take?
Yeah. And it's a bit technical to answer how it's made, but it's like I can also try again. Yeah. Maybe it's made with this digital loom. It's called a TC2 Jacquard loom. And it is a loom where you make binary coding for it. So I make like I try again. Okay, first I make a drawing by hand, and then I make it digitally, and then it was just to show like the process. So the next image you can see, I start using digital. Yeah, and then okay, this one. Okay. Then I make these codes for the loom, where I tell it where to lift or lower the thread. Mm-hmm. So it's like programmed to know each, like where every thread is supposed to be, and in that way it can have like really many threads because I don't have to count anything. I have told it beforehand. So if I want like this green is one code, and then this green is another, and then this is another, and then because I programmed the computer or the loom to know this, then I don't have to have the full overlook while I put the threads in. So this is not like a fully automated loom. You can also get some that kind of print out the tapestry, which I've also worked with. But in this one, you still have to put in all the threads and to make the right tension. Mm-hmm. Every time you put a new thread, you have to like beat it, you call it. Yeah. So, and if you see, here you can see like what the codes kind of look like. And it's very, I'm not gonna like you're not gonna know how to do it after this, but it's just to show like how it looks with the files, and then the loom can read it, and then I put in all the threads. And about time, how long time it takes, it's a bit hard to just say, because there's a lot of preparation, and I usually make more works at a time. So like this series of work maybe have taken half a year, but like standing with the loom, it maybe takes for one piece a week. But it's like it varies a lot. Yeah. And then there's like the after work afterwards. Oh yeah, that's so good. But yeah, that was just when it was just finished, and you can also see that because I'm the one who has to make sure that it's has the right tension, then I made it a bit wrong, so it's not the same length actually, because there's like some human hand involved also. Yeah.
Let's move to another artwork and another project. I hope the TV will follow us. No.
It's a bit annoying.
Yeah, it's a, yeah. Okay, it's stuck. So in the following project that we want to talk about, you also use another typical medieval figure, which is not the unicorn, but which is the jester. What does the jester embody for you, and which specific reference did you use? And while you're answering, I will try to find yeah. Très rapidement.
Okay, and maybe the next one.
The next one. Okay.
Okay.
The next one.
No, maybe you can say the question again.
It was about the jester.
Yes, the jester.
Here.
This work I made for exhibition called Treasure Hunt, and it was like about magical creatures, but also about like, just fiction in general. And I, have been working with like medieval characters and stuff, and I thought the jester was a interesting character because it both exists in real life, or it has been existing, but also very much in fairy tales. And I was discovering that it had very many characteristics, and some of the jesters were like disabled people that people would just think looks funny or looks odd, and then there was some that were more like great performers who were good at storytelling, and I thought that some of their characteristics also like related a little bit to making art, where you had to be like entertaining like a specific class sometimes also. And then I wanted to kind of make, and then there's also the jester that was the homeless person, because he always traveled around, going to new places to entertain the king and stuff like this. So I wanted to make a work where it was like the house of the jester, like always on the move, kind of. Yeah.
And you also have this very specific reference of this painting.
Yes. And that was, also while I was looking at all of these jester things, I found this very iconic Polish painting where it's called Stańczyk, which means jester. And it's showing a very sad jester in the room next to like a party going on in the halls of a castle, and it was representing like the political situation of the time, where he thought people was just ignoring like the issues in the world and in the country. Yeah.
like now.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of kind of relevant. Yeah.
So you decided to give the homeless jester an house, but it's a specific one because you add some flowers and legs to the house, and I was wondering why.
I thought it kind of had this that the house almost became alive or a character on its own, and that was like a nomad, like the jester was. So it was able to move, and then also I wanted to make it like a bit magical, I guess, also, and yeah, have like a bit of a eerie or like a bit abandoned atmosphere almost, so that the jester was not in the house, I guess. Yeah, and then the flowers I thought was also giving the same vibe. I think, yeah.
Very, very vibe.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at this piece, it reminded me something that I discovered at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. I discovered that doll houses were used in the 17th century by rich family to teach girls how to run a house or to run the economy of a house, and these small houses make me think to these doll houses, and I was wondering if we could also see a feminist dimension in this piece.
I think there's always, like, because I am a feminist and I also think that it's always a part of the work that I do somehow, because it's like a lens, and I also thought a lot about the house as like a symbol of what is a house and who can relate to this kind of house, and also the doll house, like you said, how you have been mass producing this toy or whatever to make girls become good wives and stuff. So there's like, I think it's a very loaded symbol somehow also, which is not like at the front of the work, but it's still like within the work, I think. Yeah.
And yeah, you say that there is it's an abundant architecture, but also full of magic, and it's something that we can find in your practice in general and in other projects. And we could now move on to your very last project that you did, entitled Void Charm. I will try to... Oh, no.
No, but that's good.
No, that was... Yeah, this one. So you told me that this installation stands for you as if a construction site would come alive. And I was wondering how you created this metaphor of the construction site within the exhibition space. And I will maybe...
maybe show the pictures. It's a total installation made out of sand or like dirt from a construction site in the city of the exhibition space, so very close by the space, and it also has like stones and concrete parts from the same construction site, and then it's also mixed with more like I would say it's like a mix between countryside and construction site somehow. So there's also these like withered sunflowers, and and then another thing is also the lighting. There's like these working lamps and also street lamps that I also use to like give the atmosphere of the city and construction, and like this landscape in like development somehow. Yeah.
And also the water. You explained me about the water.
That's true. I think a thing that it has in common, this like when you go through Denmark, at least the fields and the countryside, there's very many flooded fields with like big puddles of water, and the same is true for the construction sites. There's really many around where I work with my studio practice. There's many new buildings coming up, and they all have these big, almost like ponds filled with water. And I think they're very beautiful, actually. And I thought it was a nice link also between the two landscapes.
Mm-hmm. And this both landscape of nature and construction site is populated with very strange and curious and playful characters, which personally make me think to the gargoyle, to the medieval gargoyle. But your references come from another field. So what was your inspiration for these little characters? This one and...
Yeah, if you go maybe next.
The next one? Yeah.
Yeah, there's these... there's like, I guess, 3 kinds of characters in the show. And there's like the tinfoil characters. And then there's some that are made of vitamin. And then there's these more... sculptured, I guess. So I don't know if you can make a difference like that. But there's like clay and plastic and hay, and they all have these masks on, and they are inspired by these this tradition in northern Germany where you make. It's called Bannenkörbe, and it's these beehives where you make masks for them to scare away evil spirits, and. Yeah, I thought that was really a very nice way to care for nature somehow, but also like in a bit of a grotesque way. And then I used this kind of plastic that you use in building work and stuff like this. Also.
And you also add a very contemporary element because one of the masks is smoking.
Yes, yes, yeah, that's also a smoking mask. Yeah, okay. No. You saw it.
That's the smokers.
Yeah.
And just after,
Yeah, and this is the Bannenkörbe, which are really nice. Yeah, this kind of sculpture that an artist, Aladdin Boreoli, has made like a whole archive of these sculptures, what you should call it, which is really nice also.
In addition to your installation practice, you also have a drawing practice, and we choose together to dwell for a moment on one of your drawings. It's a
bit hard to say.
Yeah, I will stay on this image. So it's a drawing. It was an exercise sketch commission for an exhibition in which all of the artists had to design a fontaine, and your version of a fontaine is made up with strange anthropomorphous creatures, half bird and half frog, which also evocates me the marginalia, which are small creatures that was on the medieval book in the margin of the book. But your characters come from your imagination and also the tradition of where you grown up in the north, right?
Yeah. There's some myths in the north of Jutland, but also in like the northern mythology in general. But I know that there's a bit of variation to them. But where if you see especially a woman with a hole in her back, then she's dangerous. So it's like an elf. And then where I'm from, they also have stories about trolls that have, they're very, very big, but then they have like huge holes in the back. And I thought that there was something really nice about like making the hole go all the way through and then making the water go through the body. So it has like references to both like these old fountains where they all spit water, but then with a mix of, like you say, my imagination, but also some references to folklore, I guess. And
and this northern myth has great influence on you, not only on the drawing but on other projects. And it's the case for the installation entitled Hot Hands. And you have been inspired by a pagan tradition of fire. So maybe you can explain us this tradition.
Yes. And maybe should we watch the pictures also?
Yeah.
So it's like it's not so easy to see because the picture is quite small, but it's a tapestry also with like these chain dancers holding hands around a burning car, and then around in the border of the tapestry, they're also running around these chain dancers. And then they're in a parking lot with like very tall buildings. And I wanted to like mix, these pagan traditions that you ask about, where in Denmark, at least, and we also talked about also in France, before Christianity, there was like really many traditions of communities coming together and lighting a fire, both for like the seasons changing, but also for magical reasons, and also just a way of being together as a community. And when I read about it, I also read that when the Christianity became more took more over, then it became not allowed for a lot of people to do this. So I was thinking a lot about like how maybe Christianity came with individuality, or like how it made society more individualized in some way, because they thought that the pagan traditions or like the community traditions were not holy somehow.
Yeah, and they were forbidden, but they also have been transformed. And for instance, this fire for the end of the de la récolte, for the work in the field, it has been transformed in the Fête de la Saint-Jean in France, which is in by the end of June. So it's also have been transformed and reused also in another form and in another purpose for the Christianity.
Yeah, and we have the same actually also, but where it marks the new, like the longest day of the year in Denmark is the 22nd, I think, or 1st of June. And we have a big fire every year. And when I was a child, people would make sculptures of witches, and then they would burn them on the fire. So there was like also a reference to like the burning of witches, which is very recently like becoming less popular.
And in your installation, they are not burning witches, but they are burning cars.
Yes.
Because there is also references to nowadays context and the massification of riots and of violence also in the streets, in the cities. what is your aim to represent a car burning?
I think it's more like the uprise, or like the riot symbol, I guess, and also in a positive way, I think, or like I think it. I don't know if it's easier to see, but it's they're also smiling, all of the people, like dancing around the fire. So it's like they're very happy to be burning down the streets. And
so you're crossing a magical ritual with more contemporary elements, and the title, which is Hot Hands, also have a specific signification, and maybe because it's very Danish references, you can explain it.
Yeah, in Danish it's called de varme hænder, hot hands, and the varme hænder, or like the warm hands, or the hot hands, they're like a word or like a phrase you use for people doing work caring for people. So like the nurses and the people caring for the elderly and stuff like that. So people working with care, they are called the warm hands. And then I called it hot hands because I thought it was like a bit fresh somehow. And then just before I made the work, there was a lot of strikes with the nurses in Denmark because they weren't being paid enough. And I thought it was nice to reference to them also in relation to the witches and them doing care work and magic in older times, but then also thinking like, what if the hands were so hot they started setting things on fire, I guess. Kind of, yeah.
And on the floor of the installation, you display a small boxes that we can see here and here, and we can see the character dancing in a chain. And what is detail made for in the installation?
It's kind of like a prolongation, I don't know if that's what you say, of the tapestry. So it's a hand holding a lighter. It's kind of getting ready to burn things down. And then it has this face that is smiling, kind of teasingly, or like looking like it's ready for trouble, I think. So yeah, I just thought it was a nice addition, like maybe also a bit of a before and after, or like just before everything burned, I guess. Yeah.
And is it a call for a joyful revolution?
Yes. Yeah. You can say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're done with the presentation. Maybe you have some question about the topic that we briefly speak about. So please feel free to ask your question.
I would like to know the main idea of the exhibition.
Sorry? This one?
The main theme of this exhibition.
Of the last one we presented?
No, the main idea.
Of this one?
Of this one?
Yes.
Of this one today, yeah. It's inspired by a concept which is entitled After Pop, and my motivation was to display artwork in which you can find both references to popular culture, so more traditional representation, iconography, symbols, which are crossed with pop culture, so other references, way more modern, way more contemporary, and all of the artwork have this in-betweenness, in between times, in between spaces, in between representation, and it's also about how the myth and the narrative are always the same, but just taking new shape. And I think that Olivia's work is very much in connection to this idea of renewing the myth and giving new forms and new hands and new signification.
And what about those pieces you can move with them?
The piece we can move? This piece? I'm not sure we can. Those people can touch it in the show? No.
No.
Like this one, for example. Not this one. We can move it.
If it's possible to, or what? I'm not sure. Yeah, it is possible.
Yeah, I mean.
Do you mean to show it in another place? Yes, I actually am going to show it in Germany in March, but it is a project because you have to make it fit the space and to collect. I would like to collect local plants, for example, and build it up. So you really need to want to do it. Yeah.
You have to bring your same.
Yeah.
Works,
Yeah.
your
Yeah. It is a project. Yes.
But you're working very site specific because you created singular pieces, but you also create more total installation as the void chime, for instance.
Yeah. I like to, especially because it doesn't make sense to keep the plants in my. I have a very small studio, so I cannot keep everything, so I have to and it's also biodegradable, so I can put it out again, and then I can collect some new. But I have the rocks, for example, still, and I have a good stick I wanted to keep and stuff like this. Yeah, and the tapestries, of course. Yeah. Thank you.
I have a question. It's maybe a bit more technical regarding the tapestry making, because you have these drawings and then you translate them. I'm curious, you said you have the options of 24 or 8 colors, and how is this translation from, because it has a very painterly quality, like tapestry. How do you do that, and what are the possibilities, or what are the kind of other things that you cannot do, for instance, like with, do you understand my question?
Yes.
I'm curious how you get to this very painterly result.
I think there's definitely things you cannot do, but there's also very many possibilities. So I don't know. In this tapestry there are only 8 colors of yarn actually. So it's also about how you mix the yarns, and then how nerdy, I guess, you want to be with the codes. So if you want to make a very I don't know, structured one, then you can be really mathematical about it also. And I'm not so mathematical yet, so the ones I make are actually pretty simple. But then because you have it's pixel based, so I use for the backgrounds I make watercolor drawings, and then I kind of select and take out the colors, and then like this you can have one pixel that's one color, so you can make it float very much together somehow in that way, where in more analog weaving you would usually have more an area of a color, maybe. I mean, you can do also anything you want analog, but it is easier because you can say this little tiny spot here, I want it to be yellow. and then it can make like everything flow together more.
For the eye, then it looks more like the gradients, but it's actually just one pixel.
Yeah. And then some things you cannot control also, like how, because there's 2 colors going up and then 6 colors going this way. And then when you change the color that's going up, then some of the colors lying in between, they show a little bit. Like, so you can also get some surprises, which I really like. Like this has like some colors I didn't know would show, but I thought they were a gift, I guess. Yeah. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure. Mm. No. That's my version. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, Gobelin is more. It's like a very old tradition, so they don't have the new machines. Yeah. Maybe. I think they do. I think they proudly preserve the old probably. I think that's.
Do you work with them?
No. I've worked with this woman where I've made these pieces. Is a private studio in the Netherlands, in a very small town. And I've also worked with like the bigger tapestries I've made has been in this textile museum in Tilburg, it's called. Yeah. So there's like, and they have a really, really big factory. It's an old weaving factory that are now like developing new technologies and working with artists and designers to create like more experimental textile art, I think. Yeah.
But I think that, for instance, in Aubusson, which is also a place of tapestry production, I think they also use this kind of new technology and new machine, and that every year they are inviting contemporary artists to produce new tapestry on that very new technology of tapestry.
Another side.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we are done.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
for
you.
your listening. And I'm staying a bit in the exhibition. If you had other questions on other artwork, or if you have more question to Olivia, maybe we'll stay in the place.
And you can also see the back side of the tapestry.